The Russians are now in Ukraine. The Ukraine crisis has escalated, if you will. And already we're beginning to see that our enemies around the world are getting emboldened. They're really moving. And who's next? Probably China. If China sees that Russia is able to gobble up the Ukraine, or even checkmate the Ukraine without needing to have a full-scale invasion, and if China sees that Biden is just bungling and mumbling and Kamala is cackling, and the rest of the Western alliance is fulminating but ultimately doing nothing or nothing meaningful, then China goes, hey, this is our opportunity. We've got this bungling fool in the White House, a senile dotard, and so there's nothing to worry about. It's a Democrat in the hot seat, and this is a moment of opportunity for us. I was reading the Biden statement that they put out, and it's just so weak and pathetic. Things like, well, we're our best wishes go out, our hearts go out, we're standing with the people of Ukraine. And then it goes on in an almost mechanical way to talk about Biden's, I'll be making some phone calls. I'm just putting myself in the place of Putin and reading this and just thinking, wow, this is a kind of, what is this? I mean, this is a kind of demented drag queen empire that is showing on its last legs. That's the impression I think that we're projecting on the world stage. Our enemies are scornful. The rest of the world, I think, is gazing in dismay and horror. And quite honestly, this is something that, well, I won't say we did. I didn't do it. You probably didn't do it. But some Americans did do it. They put these clowns, they put this menagerie in charge. And now we're beginning to see, well, you'd have to call it something like a great unwinding. Now, the media is being exposed almost daily for the complete liars and frauds that they are. For 4 years, from 2016 to 20, they told us uninterruptedly, oh, Trump is a Russian asset. And my question is, if Trump is a Russian asset and Biden was always ready to stand up to Putin, Biden goes, I'm the last guy Putin wants, in power. If that's the case, why didn't Putin invade the Ukraine when his fully owned puppet, Trump, was in the White House? Think about that. And the fact that he didn't makes you question the premise. Well, maybe Trump is not a Russian asset after all. Maybe all of that was just flim-flam that was being put out by the media. Now, if it was someone other than Biden, you might think that this was some kind of a ploy on Biden's part. I remember Nixon in the 70s had what he called this crazy man routine. At one point, I think he told Haldeman, or was it Kissinger, listen, I'm trying to give the impression to the Russians that I'm a little crazy, but that's because I don't want them to be able to predict my next move. I want them to be a little scared of what I might do. But for Nixon, this was a thought out strategy. So I think to myself, is Biden putting on the kind of decrepit old fool act? Is he trying to no, I don't think so. I think he is a decrepit old fool. He's not acting. This is not an act. Come on, man. Don't do that. We don't really need you in Ukraine. I've been getting $50,000 a month from the Ukraine. It's been really good for my family. So, here you have Biden. He's like, we'll take $50,000 for family expenses from the Ukraine. And here's Putin. We'll take Ukraine. Wow. Now, Trump, of course, is all over this, and he goes, listen, there's no reason this should have happened. It wouldn't have happened if I was in charge, and I think we kind of deep down know that's true. Because think of it, Putin's the same guy that he was before. Putin hasn't changed. So what's changed? What's changed is American leadership, and even today you have to put that word in quotation marks. A small example of this is that Trump, the so-called Putin puppet, blocked the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Biden comes in and he okays it. Now that the Russians are making their way to Kiev, Biden's like, I'm going to pull back my support for the Nord Stream pipeline. So I guess his support lasted a few weeks. But this is the kind of dithering, appeasement-oriented type of leadership that emboldens adversaries. And then there's also the hypocrisy that undermines a little bit of our support for our own governments. For example, if you're a Canadian, you're one of these truckers. You're sick. Your life has been essentially shut down, And then here's Justin Trudeau, cutting off your bank accounts. And here's Trudeau. I'm going to quote him. He goes, "Canada stands against authoritarianism, and so we're going to be supporting sanctions in the Ukraine." I'm thinking, what? If Canada stands against authoritarian, what have you been doing in your own country? So it's difficult today to con people with this kind of thing, because they're going to look first at home. And so even the old distinction between the free world and the authoritarian world has deeply eroded. There's a lot of unfreedom going on right here in the United States. There's a lot of unfreedom going on in Canada and in Europe. And so we've got to get a little bit off our old Reaganite high horse here, because our own governments are a greater threat to us in some cases than Putin. Your life, for example, is it more endangered right now by Putin, or is it more endangered by Biden? Are you more afraid of some Russian Cossack, some soldier in a kind of khaki outfit? Or are you more afraid of the FBI under Merrick Garland being ordered to raid your house? Look, I just saw an article, some pompous never Trumper type. This is a defining moment for the Republican Party. Yes, it is. It's a defining moment, but not in the sense he means. It's a defining moment in the sense that we will not automatically salute when they say go. We're not going to support every single war because, we're patriots. We've got to line up, we got to sing out of the same choir book. No, we're actually not going to do that. So we can think for ourselves. We're going to evaluate each situation as it comes. We're going to recognize what are the values that America itself is trying to project around the world, and are those healthy values? And if we look out for our own self-interest and we look out for our own backyard, the Russians are going to be doing the same. And the same leftists who keep saying things like, think of it, when they're talking about immigration, suddenly it's like, you know what, we don't care about borders, Dinesh. Borders don't really, what's the point of a border? Besides, in a globalized world, we don't need borders. Suddenly these same people were very concerned about the integrity of the Ukrainian border. Yeah, well, wait a minute. Isn't that the exact opposite of what you have been telling us insistently for a long time? So suddenly we're kind of onto your rhetorical charade. We recognize that there's no principle, no consistency behind it. And as a result, we're going to be obstinately reluctant to go along.